Common Mod Essay, Crucible. Introduction. Arthur Miller's tragic drama, The Crucible, 1953, reveals human experiences through confronting the human propensity to act with expedience when faced with crisis in an erroneous attempt to cling to the familiarity of order. 1. By utilizing the Salem witch hunts as an allegory for the injustices propagated during the Red Scare of McCarthyism, Miller engages with human experiences when provoked by the extremities of crisis. 2. This is evident through his exploration of the shared human experience of mass hysteria, along with the personal human experience of balancing moral integrity with self-interest. Miller also commends the personal experience of moral redemption as a universal testament to the fluidity of morality. Ultimately, through the Crucible's form as a transhistoric parable, Miller urges the audience to preserve the individualism necessary to recognize and challenge the collective ideological psyche. Paragraph 1. Miller's The Crucible explores the human experience of mass hysteria, warning the audience of the frailty of morality and rationality when provoked by crisis. 1. Through the allegory of the contextual fear of the devil during Salem's witch hunts mirroring the anti-communist hysteria of McCarthyism, Miller isolates mass hysteria in response to crisis in a morally restrictive society as a timeless susceptibility of the human experience. This is reflected through the rising tension in Abigail's exclamatory repetition of, quote, "I saw Sarah Good with the devil, I saw Goody Osborne with the devil," unquote, which culminates in the sudden stage direction, "The curtains fall," symbolizing the loss of control over the hysteria in Salem at the end of Act 1. The ominous finality of the stage direction refutes the girls' supposedly pious confessions, the dramatic irony exposing Abigail as the true orchestrator of Salem's hysteria. 3. With this, Miller reveals the vulnerability of humanity to the collective mindset, along with its capacity to be capitalized on for personal gain, such that genuine fear and concern for others becomes indistinguishable from exploitation and revenge. 4. This idea is further reinforced through Miller's stage direction, quote, "Mary, as though infected, screams with them," unquote, utilizing simile to draw a comparison between mass hysteria and a virus in its capacity to transmit falsehoods and weaken the collective social body it inhabits. Here, Miller unravels the paradox of hysteria, since beneath its creation of superficial social unity, it is ironically socially divisive by fracturing Salem's deeper bonds of trust and relationships. 5. The consequences of these social divides are captured through Hale's description of, quote, "orphans that wander from house to house," unquote, and how, quote, "abandoned cattle bellow on the highroads," unquote, after the trials are over, the imagery of unrest and abandonment creating a sense of finality, which illustrates the ultimate consequence of a hysterical collective mindset. Hence, Miller effectively illustrates the human experience of mass hysteria, urging the audience to preserve their individuality in the face of collective pressure. Paragraph 2. Additionally, The Crucible reveals the paradox of moral integrity competing against motivations of self-interest when spurred by crisis, confronting responders with the essential vulnerability of human morality. 1. This is captured through Danforth's ruthless tone in his hyperbolic statement that he would, quote, "hang 10,000 that dared to rise against his law," unquote, and that an, quote, "ocean of salt tears would not stop him," unquote, juxtaposing his true nature with his ostensible purpose as an administrator of justice. As such, Miller provokes responders to realize the tragic paradox underlying Danforth's motivations, as he is compelled to preserve his reputation of judicial infallibility at the expense of compassion and justice itself. 2. This hence elucidates the personal experience of conflicting morality and self-preservation, constructing a timeless insight through its parallels to Senator McCarthy, whose campaign for the ostensible rescue of American democracy was undercut by the character assassinations he founded his career over. 3. The discrepancy between reputation and integrity it implies is further satirized through Miller's hypocritical characterization of Paris as both Salem's minister and also a power-hungry, paranoid individual. His repetition of the possessive pronoun my, as he states, quote, "My ministry's at stake, my ministry and perhaps your cousin's life," unquote, signals his egotistical preoccupation with his reputation over the lives of his community. 4. Conversely, Miller uses authorial intrusion to characterize Rebecca Nurse as the epitome of goodness, with, quote, "a character so high," unquote, acting as a literary foil to Danforth and Paris, motivating her decision to refuse to falsely confess. Her heroism reinforced through simile to, quote, "let Rebecca go like a saint," unquote. 5. Ultimately, Miller explores the personal experience of balancing moral integrity against self-interest to compel responders to either preserve their moral integrity or be subsumed in complicity. Paragraph 3. Furthermore, Miller explores the moral ambiguity of human experiences through Proctor's character progression from moral transgression to redemption. 1. This is reflected through Miller's characterization of Proctor as a tragic hero within a quadripartite Aristotelian tragedy, being, quote, "a sinner not only against the moral fashion of the time, but also his own vision of decent conduct," unquote. Yet, Miller complicates his hamasha of guilt through the stage direction where Proctor, quote, "counted back on all his fingers, knowing one was missing," unquote, when asked by Hale to recite the 10 Commandments. His subconscious guilt causing a Freudian slip that exposes his adultery. Proctor's unintentional omission portrays him as both honest and guilt-ridden, reinforcing Miller's critique of morality as indefinable. 2. Despite being derided as a sinner, Proctor ironically produces the strongest moral outcry against the injustice in Salem. This is seen in his anagnoresis, quote, "I have given you my soul, leave my name," unquote, wherein he refuses to allow his name, a symbol for his reputation and self-worth, to be tarnished by the falsehood of witchcraft. 3. Hence, by portraying Proctor's cognitive dissonance between his guilt and struggle to restore innate goodness in a society accustomed to repression, Miller recognizes the universal capacity for moral redemption, drawing inspiration from the Hollywood 10 who refused to name communists before the HUAC. 4. This encapsulates Miller's didactic narrative, reinforced through the stage direction of, quote, "the new sun pouring on Elizabeth's face," unquote, as she declares Proctor, quote, "having his goodness now," unquote, a symbol of renewal that reframes his tragic death as an act of moral redemption. 5. Hence, Miller depicts the experience of moral redemption as honorable and universal, reflecting the complexity and fluidity of the human experience of personal morality. Conclusion. Ultimately, Miller explores both shared and personal human experiences within the crucible to challenge assumptions and ignite new perspectives. This is through his exploration of the shared human experience of mass hysteria and the personal experiences of moral redemption and the balancing of moral integrity with self-interest.